Hey, hi there! Welcome back to the Pixie Art Show. I'm Pixie, and today's video is going to be a little bit darker, a bit more on the spooky side of things. I'm talking about one of my all-time favorite internet urban legends. So turn the lights down, grab a blanket and a comfort item to cuddle while I tell you about the black-eyed kids. For those of you who don't know, black-eyed kids, also known as black-eyed children or by the acronym BEK, are young children, usually between the ages of 6 to 16. They are extremely pale and often wearing hoodies and jeans, dressed as to not stand out or dressed in old-fashioned type clothing. The most notable features of these creatures are the fact that anyone who encounters them are overcome with intense feelings of fear and dread, and also their eyes are completely black. The whites and irises are almost as if they've been completely eaten up by the pupils. Encounters with them tend to take place late at night with about 2 or more BEKs, and they either appear when you are in your car and will ask for a ride, or they'll knock on your door and ask to be let in. They'll ask for a ride home or to come in and use your phone, and the general consensus is to never, ever give them what they want. No one seems to know what they actually want, and there are some stories where someone let them in and lived, but there are very few of these stories out there. They are very rare. I'll actually talk about one of these stories shortly, but I want to give a brief history of the BEKs first. So the first real encounter that can be found online comes from 1998, when journalist Brian Bethel had a run-in with 2 BEKs in the parking lot of a shopping center. He was going there to pay an internet bill and arrived around 9:30 at night. He also makes mention of a theater in the same area, which is actually important for the story. He said that as he was writing out a check, he heard a knock on his window and looked up to see 2 young boys standing next to his car. He didn't notice their eyes right away and initially thought they were going to ask him for some money. He could feel his fight or flight response kicking in as the older boy spoke to him. The younger boy kept silent the entire time. Mr. Bethel talks about how the boy who spoke to him didn't act like a typical child interacting with a strange adult. They usually tend to be more shy and nervous, but this boy seemed rather confident. And he explained that they had wanted to see a movie, but forgot their money at home. The boy wanted Mr. Bethel to take them to their house so they could get it. Mr. Bethel said that the kids seemed upset that he didn't immediately let them in to take them home. The older boy asked again to be taken home and said that they were only kids. What harm could they do? As if to put Mr. Bethel's mind at ease. Really, how could 2 little kids be any danger to an adult? When he asked them what movie they were going to see, he realized that the movie they apparently planned to see, which was Mortal Kombat, had already started an hour before and was the last showing for the night, so they had actually missed the opportunity to see it that night. The older boy asked again to be let in, saying that they couldn't come in until he let them. Mr. Bethel realized then that he was about to unlock the door to let them in. When he jerked his hand back, he looked at the children, and this is when he sees that their eyes are entirely black. The older boy got angry at this point and said, and I'm quoting from the article, "Come on, mister," he said. "We won't hurt you. You have to let us in. We don't have a gun." This terrified Mr. Bethel. The kid was clearly saying that they didn't need any sort of weapon. As he went to drive away, the older boy yelled, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in." Mr. Bethel sped away at this point, seeing from his rearview mirror that the kids were gone and the parking lot was empty, as if nobody had been there to begin with. I remember the first time I read this story, I was thoroughly, thoroughly chilled. I mean, I like kids well enough, though they can be quite creepy at times. But this is beyond just a creepy kid talking about the shadow man living in their closet, or their little invisible friend who's blue in the face. Whatever black-eyed children are, they have an obvious air of malicious intent about them that causes our instincts to kick in and tell us that there's something wrong here. Get away now. On the bright side, they clearly can't enter your car or home without permission, which of course gives many the idea that they could be some sort of vampire. Another possibility is an alien-human hybrid, mostly because of their solid black eyes, strange way of speaking, as well as their ability to appear and disappear out of nowhere. In another encounter I've come across in my research, the poster said that they actually let the children in. The poster said that they were just chilling at home when there was a knock at the door. And since it wasn't really late at night, they answered the door to see two young boys standing on their doorstep. The older boy said that they were lost, asked to come in, and that the younger boy needed to use the washroom. The poster said that they lived in an area where it was easy enough to get lost, so these two children could have very well been lost and needed help. So the poster allowed the children to enter. The younger boy just walked in and straight up the stairs to use the washroom, and the poster thought nothing of it, just shouting up where the washroom was and pointing down the hall to where the phone was for the older boy. The poster followed the boy and was suddenly overcome with unease as the boy just stopped at the phone without picking it up. The poster asked if everything was okay, and the boy just looked up at them, allowing the poster to see his completely black eyes. This frightened the poster, and they turned to run back down the hall, only to find that it was blocked by the other boy. The boy then told the poster that they were there to collect them, and the poster managed to run and lock themselves into another room. The poster stood there for about an hour before managing to run out of the house through the back door, through their backyard, and over to their friend's house. The friend, of course, didn't believe the story, but went back to the house with the poster to check it out. When they searched the house, the children were gone. The poster said that they've actually dreamt about the BEKs ever since, but I haven't found an update on whether or not they've seen them again. Almost all instances of people having run-ins with these entities have seen children with black eyes. Not often do people see teenagers or black-eyed adults, but there have been some encounters. One incredibly chilling story of a black-eyed adult comes from Lucas, Texas, and is told by a young man by the name of Dallas Adams. Mr. Adams was filling his car up at a gas station in Lucas on a sunny July morning. There were a few other people at the gas pumps with him as he was pumping his gas. However, once he was done inside the store, he noticed that everything had changed outside. He'd been in the store for maybe a couple of minutes at most, but now there was no one else at the pumps or even in the lot. Being alone suddenly frightened him, though he couldn't quite understand why. That is, until he saw a man standing beside his car. Mr. Adams noticed that the man smelled as if he hadn't showered in a while as he walked to his car. The man got closer to Mr. Adams and pretty much demanded to be given a ride. Mr. Adams was, of course, rightfully freaked out. A random stranger had just approached him and started asking rather forcefully for a ride. After being asked for a second time, Mr. Adams noticed the man's eyes were entirely black. No sort of detail to them at all. Just nothing. He mentioned that the man also had terrible breath as he spoke to him. And when he managed to ask the man where he wanted to go, Mr. Adams was given the same response as before. Give me a ride. Mr. Adams responded that he couldn't give the man a ride before jumping into his car and noping right the heck out of there. It had actually taken him a moment to be able to break his gaze away from the man's terrifying eyes as the man walked closer to him. Mr. Adams also mentioned dreaming about the man with the black eyes ever since that day. So this seems to be another staple of black-eyed people encounters, where you have dreams about them after meeting them. Now, I honestly can't say for sure which version of these entities I find the scariest. While adults have the potential to overpower you and can be super intimidating, even normal human adults, the kids can also be pretty scary too. Most people would let their guard down when faced with a child that needs help, especially when they seem to be lost and underdressed for certain weather. If a child were to approach you late at night claiming to be lost and afraid, you might think nothing of it and help them. Children aren't very likely to be a threat to your safety, right? At least they're not supposed to be. I'm not sure if I actually believe in black-eyed kids. I mean, almost all of the stories of them come from the internet after all. While I am in no way a skeptic when it comes to paranormal stuff, like I said earlier, I tend to believe it right away and then consider all the possible logical explanations. There have been countless accounts of people seeing these things and interacting with them. There's even a subreddit dedicated to them, though that doesn't actually prove anything definitively. Still, with so many encounters dating back to the late 90s, it's hard to completely disprove their existence too. I haven't encountered any myself, and I'm quite happy to keep it that way, though I have read somewhere that just talking about them can cause them to appear much like skinwalkers, which I may do a video about in the future. And if I were to hear a knock on my door and open it to see one of the black-eyed kids standing on my doorstep, it would most likely get punted across the front lawn. Probably best just to not answer the door, especially when it's super late at night. Just lock your doors, don't answer at night. So if they are real, what exactly are the black-eyed kids? Like I mentioned before, one thought is that they are demonic in nature, which of course does make a lot of sense. They need permission to enter your life in some way, and in most cases of demonic possession, the host needs to give permission in some way for the demon to be able to take hold. They can also be quite forceful and demanding. They also have been seen to have possible psychic powers, the ability to disrupt anything electrical, and they also frighten animals. Demons and ghosts are usually known for messing with the electricity around them, causing lights to flicker or go out, and other electronic devices to behave weirdly, turning on or off, for instance. And of course, let's not forget that animals tend to be able to sense when things are off about something or someone. Now, while these things could very well be some kind of demonic entity, my thoughts are that they might be something else. Demons don't usually seem to present as tangible entities. They seem almost to prefer hiding in the shadows and making themselves felt more so than actually seen. Most of the stories I've read about demons, and most movies and TV shows that involve them, rarely ever show the demon. They also often are accompanied by the smell of sulfur or rotten eggs. A rotten smell is almost always a main staple of people's encounters with anything demonic. And I've only ever come across one story where it was mentioned that a black-eyed person had a bad smell. And that's the story from Dallas Adams, who talked about the black-eyed man having bad body odor and breath. But he didn't say it smelt like sulfur, just that the man smelt like he hadn't cleaned himself in weeks, hadn't showered at all. So yeah, I'm inclined to think that the black-eyed kids aren't actually demons, but something else entirely. As for the human-alien hybrid theory, I feel like this one might be more on the nose. Most people who claim to have seen aliens or have been abducted almost always describe them as being tall, gray beings with big black eyes. Cold, unfeeling black eyes are pretty much a normal thing for alien beings to have, and the black-eyed kids have this exact same feature. I mean, it's right there in the name. The extreme fear and sense of dread that comes with meeting a black-eyed kid also feels like something that people get when encountering aliens, even when they can't remember their alien encounter or abduction. They see something that triggers a memory and they're overcome with intense, intense fear. We've also heard stories of people being abducted by aliens and having strange objects implanted under their skin. So, it could be quite possible that aliens are either implanting human women with whatever is needed to make their children, or taking some human DNA to create them on their ships, something like test tube babies. Honestly, the more I think about it, the more this theory makes sense to me. Now, of course, I do fully believe in aliens. Again, not a skeptic in any way. The universe is just, it's so huge. We can't possibly be the only planet out there with intelligent life. And while I haven't had any actual encounters with aliens that I know of, my family and I did see some interesting lights in the night sky one summer. But that's a story for another video. There's also the thing that the one kid said in the second story about how they were there to collect the person. That definitely strikes me as a sort of alien thing to do. They collect humans in abductions to do, oh goodness only knows what on them. So sending little kids in first to try and gain your trust and then get into your house or car or life in some way seems like something an alien would probably do to help get to you, so that they then can enter your life themselves to do whatever it is that they do. That would also help to explain how the BEKs just seem to show up and then vanish out of seemingly nowhere. So what do you think of these creepy kids? Are they real, or just a huge internet hoax? Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts on black-eyed kids are and what they could be or could want. I'm genuinely curious about what others think, especially in the case of such a popular internet legend. Do you think they actually exist? Or do you think it's all just completely made up? And have you had any experiences with black-eyed people, kids or adults? If you had an encounter, definitely please let me know. I love reading about other people's stories about meeting these things, even though I kind of hope I never see them myself. just the thought of having a black-eyed kid come knocking on my door is horrifying. But, I mean, they are so interesting at the same time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to please leave a like. If you're new and want to see more stuff from me, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at pixie_art and on Instagram at thatcrazyshortgirl. Also, let me know what your favorite urban legend is, whether it's an internet legend, one from where you live, or anything else of that nature. So in the meantime, take care of yourself, stay safe out there, and I'll see you next time. Bye!